This is the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80, and what can I say? Tissot did it again. Another absolute killer of a watch for just below $1,000. So in this video, I want to show you exactly what this watch is all about, because by far one of the most common questions that I get is recommendations for great watches, below the 3K or 1K price range. So first, we are going to have a good look at the case and bracelet, trying to find out who can pull this watch off. Then we will check how good this watch is actually finished. Then we are going to talk about the movement and see whether or not the automatic or perhaps even the quartz option is the smarter choice. And lastly, we are going to compare the PRX to watches like the Tissot Gentleman, or even significantly more expensive watches like the Tudor Royale, to get to the conclusion at the very end. Right, let's talk about the bracelet and case, because I know that lots of you are waiting for this. How big or small is it, and how is it going to look on my wrist? So let's get to the hard facts first. The case and bracelet of the PRX are made of stainless steel, and on top sits a sapphire crystal. It has a diameter of 40mm and a lug-to-lug of almost 45mm, but let me add that the last link of the bracelet has to be included in that due to the overall length, so that makes a true lug-to-lug of almost 51mm. The height is completely tame with 11mm, so it is still sleek. I think it is safe to say that wrists with a circumference of 165mm and above can get away with the PRX. Everything smaller than that, as you can see here on my wrist, have to decide for themselves if that's the look they want to go for or not. So yeah, I guess I cannot say this is IBWC approved. Good thing though is that you can order the watch, try it on and send it back in case it doesn't fit the way you want it to, so that's great. Like I said, the bracelet is made from stainless steel and more or less an integrated one given the look, but Tissot made it very user-friendly by installing this quick change system to swap it out for something else without having to use watch tools. The clasp on this is a butterfly clasp, which is always a favorite of mine, and thanks to these smaller links you can get a good fit for your wrist when you try to adjust it. Right, now let's talk about the finishing. How well is the PRX actually finished, and more importantly, does it hold up when we take a closer look? And I think here too, it makes sense to start at the case. The main part of the case has a satin finish, like the flanks or the top side, for example, and the edges are polished as well as the bezel, which adds a good amount of, flashiness to the watch. The bracelet follows the case in that regard, and there is something that really stands out to me in a very positive way. I'm pretty sure Tissot was well aware that given the case design, they simply had to follow through with the bracelet, and I'm really impressed on how much they delivered on that. It continues to the subtle satin finish, and it even has these, little bits in between the links that are polished, and I have to say that the level of detail here is rather rare in this price category. The butterfly clasp is a really nice add-on and does what it is supposed to do very well, opening and closing the bracelet safely. But let's take a closer look at the dial. What I have here is the blue dial variant, and boy oh boy, let me show you the details here. So first up, there is this very subtle radial shimmer, or you can call it sunburst. But I guess the most striking feature has to be this waffle-like design that stretches across the entire dial that very much looks like the iconic Grande Tapisserie dial we know from, Audemars Piguet's Royal Oaks, for example. And I mean, yeah, this is obviously not an AP, but I have to say that the level of detail does not have to hide behind the AP at all. Same goes for the hands and hour markers made from stainless steel, something one isn't used to in this price category. There's also the added frame to the date window and the added looms to the hour markers that finish up the more high-end look of this watch. And I mean, back then when I reviewed the Gentleman, I said that it is basically one of the best Swiss-made watches available below the 1K price range, but I have to say that the PRX takes it up a notch, replacing the Gentleman and taking over the #1 spot, really. Okie dokie, let's continue with the movement now that we have covered the outside, and I know that a lot of people want to know how reliable the movement in this is. I mean, inside means the Powermatic 80 caliber from Tissot, which isn't made in-house, but it is an ETA base that has been modified by Tissot. They modified it so that it beats a little slower with 3 Hz instead of 4 Hz, which results in a prolonged power reserve of 80 hours, hence the name, instead of the 40 hours, so you can easily have this watch lying around for a couple of days, or even over the weekend, of course, without having to set it again, something also quite unusual in this price category. Thanks to its special coil, it is also more resilient against shocks and magnetism, also a good thing. Oh, and just so you know, this movement is not COSC certified, but I had, Kai wear this one for some time and test it for accuracy, and it runs with about, like 5-ish seconds per day of accuracy, which is, to be honest, roughly the same as my Rolex watches, so I don't see a problem here. Just from the look though, the movement isn't overly special, but I guess you have to manage your expectations when it comes to this price range in some kind of way. What's more important though is that it is accurate and also known to be robust, so a nicely finished movement would have been the cherry on top anyways. And now that we are already talking about the movement, let's quickly talk about the quartz versus automatic questions. So should you go for the considerably cheaper quartz version of the PRX, or pay almost double for the automatic? And here's where you get two answers, the logical one and the right one. Let's start with the logical answer. Objectively, the quartz looks basically the same, no surprise here, just the case is half a millimeter more sleek with a height of 10.5 millimeter, but the finishing is the same, and well, the quartz movement is more accurate, up to 1 to 2 seconds per month because it's quartz, and you get it without the waffle motif on the dial, but you still get the sunburst. So I guess from a logical standpoint, you can totally save the money and go for the quartz. But at this point, I think most of you can agree with me here. Watches are anything but logical purchases, so why go for the automatic version? Here are mainly two reasons that I think are important to mention. First up, the waffle motif is only available with the automatic version, and I know that this is something a lot of people are very much drawn to because of the look in general, or more specifically the resemblance to the AP Grand Tapisserie motif. And secondly, and very clearly, the fact that, well, it has an automatic movement. Personally, I'm not too bothered by the ticking seconds hands of a quartz, but I would be lying if I said that I do not prefer a mechanical over a quartz watch if I were given the choice. So yeah, it really comes down to how you prefer your watch to tick, really. Now up to the next point, and another very frequently asked question: how does it compare to the Gentleman and to other luxury watches in general? Would you even consider this a luxury watch at all? Perhaps some of you have watched my review about the Gentleman. If not, I will link it for you in the info box down below so you can check it out after this video. But here is roughly what I concluded in my, previous Gentleman video. The almost is not due to the movement, case, or dial, because it's actually the same movement and the case and dial are equally great finished, but it all comes down to the bracelet, because back then it seemed like Tissot focused all their energy on the case, so what's in and outside, but then completely slacked when it came to the bracelet because it just didn't match the rest of the watch. But with the PRX, Tissot really stepped up their game and finally gave this watch a bracelet it deserved. I'd even go as far and say that I would rather recommend the PRX instead of a, let's say Tudor Royale, mainly because the Royale is not only double the price, but also not very excitingly finished given the money you pay. I mean, it is a nice watch, don't get me wrong, but it lacks this kick for me. But the PRX is an absolute killer given the price, and then something that definitely beats a Tudor in that regard if you compare these two. It is also why I would consider it a luxury watch, even though some might think that it is too affordable to be thought of that as such. But I think the level of detail and thought they put into it is definitely worth it to consider it a luxury watch. Right, so now that we talked about all the important stuff, let's put it all together and see where it lands us. All in all, the PRX is a great watch and definitely something I can recommend, especially for those who are, just starting out. Though the movement isn't breathtakingly beautiful, it is still an exciting watch, especially when going for the automatic version that is surprisingly well finished with a level of detail that is, really unexpected. So I guess in general, the only downside here is the fact that so far it is only available in a 40mm diameter, and that ideally you would need a bigger wrist to wear it comfortably. But that aside, it is rather affordable in comparison to other luxury watches. More importantly, readily available, and there are no wait lists at all. You can get it right away. And that is all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this watch and if you would consider it luxury or not. And if you have enjoyed this video, as always, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this one, subscribe to my channel, and then I will see you in my next video. Bye!